one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, so the problem that I see with companies, and I think the biggest stumbling block, where I'll tell people that ratio, and they know it's happening in their company, and they just sort of shrug their shoulders. Yeah, but what can I do? And that's the biggest stumbling block. Where the rock star, I don't know if you found this. Like, there's 3% rock stars. So what I found is, like, in my travels, there's like 3% rock stars. They all have the same operating system, right? They all say the same things, the same verbiage. And then there's, a bunch of people in the middle, the survivors. They're kind of good on stuff, bad on stuff. And then there's, I don't know, 5%, 10% victims. It's not their fault, it's someone else's. But I find, like, they have these common things that are holding them back. Hey, but what can I do? Yes, you can do something. Yeah. But are there roadblocks? What are the things that hold? And the other thing that I found was people don't have a realistic view of what it cost to acquire a customer. Like, hey, we got to $1 million in sales. We never spent a dime on marketing or sales. And now you're telling me I'm going to have to spend $100,000 to get to the next million, which is a reasonable number, 10%, right? And it blows their mind. They're like, well, but you've been stuck here for years. This isn't. So those are the two things that I think that people sort of struggle with. And then the acquisition cost of getting more customers, once, in a perfect world, you would execute the most efficient things first. Well, what does that mean? That the next things are going to cost you more per dollar. And the next things are going to cost you more, and the next thing are going to cost you more. And one of the things that I learned at business school was you continue to spend money on sales and marketing until the gross profit of the last dollar in revenue that you got equals what it costs to generate that piece of revenue. And if you haven't done that, you haven't maximized growth. And that's why you see Salesforce basically zero profit, from 50 million to 2 billion, right? Because they were just dumping it all back on customer acquisition. And it costs, and people can't wrap their mind around that. And it's, and that's one of the limiting factors that I see, because, like I said, in a perfect world, you're going to execute on the cheapest stuff. Well, that's done. Now you boosted $2 million or 20 million, whatever it is. Now we got to go to the next one. It's going to cost us more. But that's one of the things that I see. What are, just from my perspective, but other than that, like strategically or specifically, what are some of the things that sort of roadblock where you go in and you're like, I'm going to have trouble with this guy, or, oh, darn it, I knew this was going to be an issue. What are those things that hold us back, as an entrepreneur? What are the things that hold us back that you see?
The most common thing that I see is difficulty delegating. Now let's break that down a little bit. So a lot of entrepreneurs are phenomenally intelligent and creative individuals. They're visionaries is how we talk about them within EOS. And they're great at what they do. They're great at customer service. And they've grown a business so rapidly that they're actually doing 95% of the business themselves. And they haven't sat back and said, okay, well, where do I really want to go with this business? And who do I need on my team to help me actually get there? That's one of the biggest problems that we run into, is we have a visionary that's actually attempting to run the operations of the business. They're attempting to run the financial. They're attempting to run, particularly what's really common is they're running the sales and marketing organizations themselves. Those are 4 different jobs. So the most productive activity that we do with entrepreneurs is we establish what's called an accountability chart, which is we work with them and whoever's on the leadership team, and we say, okay, well, what are the roles that this business needs to achieve its vision? So number one, obviously we have to work through and just define what that vision is going to be 10 years out, 3 years out, 1 year out, and even a quarter in the future. But then what seats do we need to have on our accountability chart in order to achieve that goal. Now, I'm not talking about whether Sue is the right financial leader for your organization. I'm talking about what financial leader role and what does that financial leader actually need to do to fulfill the vision of the organization. Same thing with marketing, same thing with sales, same thing with operations. Sometimes there's customer service, sometimes there's HR, sometimes there's IT. It varies company by company by company. And I do that custom with a client. We work through that with a client. So as part of that exercise, the visionary leader generally has to let go of some things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not instantaneous. The expectation isn't going to be, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off and good luck. The expectation is, okay, well, let's make a plan for the next 3, 6, 9 months, even a year out into the future. We all recognize that Bob is spending 80% of his time on marketing when he really should be working on partnerships, developing big relationships, and defining the future of the organization, the strategic future of the organization. He's the visionary. So who do we need to get in on the sales side in order to take that football away from Bob and run with it as fast as he can, right? So that is the biggest challenge that a lot of these organizations are going through, is for visionaries to let go and let other people do very, very good work in their respective roles, so that the visionary can be really most effective in his role and, frankly, can have a better life. A lot of visionaries and entrepreneurs see their personal life disappear over time as their business becomes more successful and they're generating more revenue. They're actually getting less of what they want, if what they want is time with their kids and travel time with their girlfriends, their partners, whatever. That starts to disappear and get eclipsed by their business life. And they can't escape that until they delegate. And part of that is getting the right people in the right seats and defining that alongside your vision for the company. So that's one of the biggest things. The other side of that coin is the right people side, which is I work with my clients and we define what the culture is for the organization. So what are the core values? And we do that with a view into what those core values are, so that we use that when we hire people. And if they don't match the core values, you don't hire them. It's that simple. If they do match the core values, great, but they've also got to be really, really, really well aligned to the needs for that particular seat. And if you get both of those things, you got to snatch them up and hold on to them for dear life. But if they miss one or the other, either if they don't match the core values, then they're going to erode the values of your organization over time. If they don't match the needs of the seat, then they're not going to be successful. So we define those things up front and then fill those seats so that it's really, really clear as to how they're going to win. Those are the two biggest things that we wind up doing.